Next curve.
Hey everyone, welcome to this year-end Next Curve reThink podcast episode where we break down the latest tech and industry events and happening in the semiconductor industry and the AI industry into the insights that matter. And I'm Leonard Lee, Executive Analyst at Next Curve. And in this Silicon Futures episode, we will be talking about a number of things, namely AWS Trainium, coming out of reInvent 2025. What's the news there? We'll talk about Marvell Industry Analyst Day 2025, which took place at their HQ in Santa Clara. And of course, we will touch on the biggest news that dropped just yesterday, which is NVIDIA's acquihire, IP acquisition, weird thing, with Groq. And I'm joined by the fantabulous Karl Freund of Cambrian-AI Research, or Cambrian AI Research. Unfortunately, in this episode, we won't have our good buddy, Jim McGregor of Atirius Research, but he is here with us in spirit. Yeah. So, hey, before we get started, please remember to like, share, and comment on this episode. Also, subscribe here on YouTube and Buzzsprout to listen to us on your favorite podcast platform. Opinions and statements by my guests are their own and are for informational purposes only and don't reflect those of mine or those of Next Curve. And we're doing this to provide an open forum for discussion and debate on all things semiconductor industry and AI. Yeah. How you doing?
Pretty good. Holiday? Doing pretty good. I had a good holiday. Ate too much, of course, but I could use to put on a few pounds. That's not bad.
Wonderful. Yeah. You know what? Thankfully, I'm losing weight. I have to watch myself now that I am no longer deemed young.
Tell me about it.
Really depressing. But
yeah.
But
let's jump right in. I was very surprised by NVIDIA's move to acquihire Groq. They didn't acquire the company. They still spent $20 billion. So think about that.
Yeah.
3 times, almost 2.5 times what they spent on Mellanox. Had real product and real customers and distribution and everything else. So prices have gone way up. $20 billion just for the IP they will license, and of course bringing Jonathan Ross, CEO and founder of Groq, on board. I can't figure out why they did this. They already have great, in my estimation, fantabulous, as you put it, AI inference processing capabilities with Blackwell going on to Rubin and Rubin CPX and everything else. So why? What they saw in Groq is beyond me. Groq does have interesting memory architecture, very large SRAM based memory. It's not a tiered thing like Samba Nova, which, by the way, was acquired by Intel. Like 4th time's a charm, I guess. I don't know what's going on. The employees of the company as of today, 26th of December, apparently don't get anything. They now own stock options in Groq Cloud. So all the Groq hardware and software technology has been licensed to, not acquired by, but licensed to NVIDIA for $20 billion. So I don't know what Jensen's thinking, but I do know him well enough to know that he's got good reasons, and we'll all find out about it at GTC, if not sooner.
Yeah, I mean, it is really odd, but the way I look at it, it's also kind of an admission that when we look at the world of inference, it's different. If anything, this is a move that suggests that NVIDIA doesn't have the moat that everyone thinks that it has. Because this is really weird. This is very much custom silicon, right? It's a custom architecture. And this is very much a departure from what we see in the NVIDIA camp or even the AMD camp, right? I mean, this is like a different animal. And it lends credence to the arguments that we made, I mean, almost a year ago now, actually more than a year ago, that the whole custom and ASICs movement and the systems based on them will be a different market. And I think when you look at what NVIDIA has done over the last year, we've seen changes in their approaches to networking and for memory for this, what was quote unquote traditionally the custom systems market, right? Which is predominantly, that we predominantly associate with Broadcom and Marvell and the hyperscalers with their custom stuff, right?
Right. And don't forget, they also acquired Infabrica. And Infabrica is an ASIC that provides networking protocol translations and very fast access to large banks of memory. And you couple that with what they're doing with Blackwell CPX, and now with Groq, which is a very memory intensive, much smaller but very memory intensive architecture. It scales pretty well. I think we're starting to see breadcrumbs that indicate a shift in strategy, or at least a shift in implementation of their strategy.
From
NVIDIA. So what they haven't done yet, and which is a bit of a surprise to me, is they haven't acquired any quantum assets. I think I just wrote on Forbes earlier this week about quantum computing, kind of laid out the 5 modalities of quantum that are being developed now, and pointed to IBM as the leader, I think, in quantum systems that will be demonstrating quantum advantage, and then scalable fault tolerant computing in 2029. So that's coming. It's going to be a massive shift in the computer industry. I don't know what NVIDIA's game is right now. Right now, they're kind of acting as a GPU adjacent to quantum computing and providing communication between that GPU and the quantum nodes with these recent announcements. But they're not enough. That's not enough to be a significant player in what will become a multi-hundred billion dollar market in the next 5 years.
The quantum stuff is still, I don't know, seems pretty nascent. I mean, I don't know what you're seeing that's changed your perception on about how different things are from Quantum Day, at GTC 2025, but I don't see anything other than press releases, right? So, but going back to Groq, I mean, I think there's 2 things that you can maybe surmise from the move is, number one, diversification, right? Because the landscape apparently and clearly is changing, right? Your mention about Google. In fact, you have a report on that, right? On Forbes about Google's TPU and Ironwood, how that shifted the narrative and thinking around not only, the custom, let's say application specific systems, or let's call it stack specific. It's not application specific, but stack specific AI supercomputing systems. It's impacting the narrative, and narrative is such a big deal in this hype cycle right now. And I think you are seeing NVIDIA actually now having to react to things versus just dominating the storyline, right? And that, I think, is probably going to carry over into next year. And so it's really interesting.
what you're seeing are things that a year ago would have been unthinkable.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, NVIDIA is already a leader in networking, and they just bought the next generation networking, right? With Fabrica.
Right.
And now you're seeing them buy, perhaps will become the next generation of inference processing. It's not based on GPUs.
Yeah. Right.
And yet they're still investing heavily in GPU-based technologies. So I think you're right. I think there's an element of diversification in here. It's expensive diversification.
Yeah.
But I suspect, Leonard, that NVIDIA was hearing things from their customers. They're very customer centric. And Jensen spends a lot, and his whole staff spend a ton of time with customers. They must have been hearing something that told them they needed to take an option out on Groq or some other kind of ASIC technology.
Yeah, and then there's also like the broader diffusion play that NVIDIA has been executing on for the last year. Well, the NVLink Fusion is a great example, especially trying to make inroads into the whole custom and ASIC, side of the AI infrastructure story, right? Which you and I talked about last year is probably it's a different game. It's a different market. It's one that NVIDIA is probably not as core in at the moment. But then, because, for a lot of the model builders and the AI firms that are trying to go to market quickly, GPU makes perfect sense. The whole CUDA stack, the entire, AI factory concept makes a lot of sense for these types of buyers, if you will, or buyer personas. But when you look at hyperscalers that have large scale out opportunities already, the application specific, the stack specific, there's a different value proposition for building your own, right? And then I know that there was questions last year about whether or not it's economically scalable, but apparently it is, right? And they're able to, at a system level, compete. Apparently, if you believe some of these reports that are coming out, that can compete with NVIDIA's systems at a lower price point, right? And that's a huge value proposition for these large, let's say, application specific. I hate using that term because it's not right. It's too specific, but you know what I'm talking about. These custom system requirements or custom business requirements, right?
Yeah. And you take the Groq acquihire and you look at what's happening at Google. You look at what Amazon's doing with Trainium4. You look at what's happening in China. The industry seems to be taking a shift towards application-specific processors, and more importantly, systems-level architecture that these ASICs are really designed to excel in. So I think we're going to see a very different 2026 than many people are expecting.
Which we'll get into. With your predictions, right? And then some of the additive things that I'll sprinkle on top.
Sure.
I think scaling is going to be, I think that's where the economics are going to, and the technology walls are going to experience the first, let's say, bumping of the forehead. And now there is obviously a pivot toward the scale up. That's a key area of optimization and scaling, and then the scale out. I'm still not quite sure about the scale across stuff, even though that's really in vogue at the moment. These cross data center interconnects and stuff like that. Yeah, and it's really interesting. There's so many nuances to how you need to engineer your networking and your networking technologies to be optimal for that application. But I have real questions about how relevant that's going to be in the future, especially as the model training gets more efficient, because you are focusing on better non-hardware based approaches to building these models. You know what I'm saying? At a software level, model architecture level. Yeah. And speaking of Trainium4, you mentioned Trainium4.
Yeah.
I was at AWS reInvent at the beginning of December. It was my second to last event of the year. And yes, they introduced new Trainium4 instances. They also announced Trainium4, which we can expect at the end of 2026, or maybe, probably more reasonably, the beginning of 2027. But yeah, they teased that. And one of the interesting comments that Matt Garman made was that they are considering NVLink Fusion for Trainium4. But I wanted to get your take on what you thought about Trainium, and also the fact that they didn't even mention inferentia.
Right. I think that there's a dichotomy in the industry right now. You have architectures that claim to be designed for inference, like Groq, like Cerebrus. But I would point to both those architectures were actually designed for training.
CPX coming up, right?
So CPX, that's different, though. I mean,
what
I'm saying is that's an extension of a GPU with more and much cheaper memory, right? For compute-intensive workloads that do not require the memory bandwidth and latencies of HBM, which is training. So I don't know. I think the lack of inferentia discussion is an indication both of the importance of inference and a statement that kind of says that they're going to use their training chip for inference. Okay. And so that could significantly reduce their CapEx and development costs if they just focus on one architecture, which is kind of singing NVIDIA's song, isn't it? So, although now NVIDIA is going to go off and buy an inference ASIC. But, I would point to how Anthropic is going to install 1 million Google TPUs.
Yeah.
That says a lot. To me, that says a lot about what Trainium4 is. They knew all about Trainium4. They have in-house before anybody else. Their big daddy investor invented it, right? AWS, and yet they're going to go buy 1 million Google TPUs. Not 10, not 20, not 50, not 100, not 1,000, 1 million. And that's just, they made it very clear. That's just their first tranche. So I still suspect that in 5 years there will be no Trainium.
It's like 1 million, but they have 1 million. So they did bring Project Rainier online with 500,000, and I don't know where they are. I mean, the target is by the end of the year 1 million accelerators. But and by Anthropic, right? Largely. So I mean, Anthropic is securing 2 million. I mean, obviously not equivalent, but that 2 million accelerators. That's a lot.
That's a lot. It's on top of what they already have too, which is a lot of Google, a lot of GPUs from NVIDIA, as well as Trainium2, which they weren't very, very happy with. Everything I'm hearing. So I don't know. I wouldn't rule them out, but I wouldn't bet the house on it either. I think the leaders next year will be, of course, NVIDIA. They'll still have an excess of 80% share, I suspect, by the end of the year, which is a significant step down because Google is going to take a big chunk of it. AMD is going to take a chunk, not as big. But the ordering of the industry just changed, right? It's going to be NVIDIA and AMD and then everybody else. And now I think it's NVIDIA, Google, and everybody else. So AMD kind of gets demoted to one of the players of one of the everybody else instead of
I mean that really does put AMD in a tough spot because actually they're still a minor player a very minor player, and they're getting crowded out on what you might consider the growth inference market.
And I think I agree.
Unless they look at enterprise, and no one's cracked code on enterprise.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that could be. That could be. Think about. But the difference is that Google didn't build a chip and then a system. I mean, technically they did, but they thought through the system design as something they had to control, they had to invent, and they had to have massive innovation across the entire stack.
Yeah.
Whereas AMD is still playing the old game of, here's my GPU. What am I going to connect it to?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they'll get there, but they're going to, I believe that thinking was too conservative. That's kind of consistent with Lisa Su's strategies. Played very well for them in CPU world. They're going to end up at 50% share.
Well, they're like leaders in, CPUs,
but not GPUs, because the GPU is only a small one component of an entire data center scale system. And this is what Jensen's been telling us for years. It's not the chip. It's kind of the old Sun microsystem. It's the networking.
Oh, right? And the problem is everyone's still fixated on the chip. Everyone talks about the chip. Hey, we have to, from a trade policy or tech policy perspective, the lens is still focused on the chip, and we've graduated from that a long time ago. But the industry still thinks in terms of the chip. And if you look at what's happening, like my comment earlier, what's happening with scale in, that's not as much of a factor on a system level in terms of scaling influence, right? It's interconnect, like the scale up still, right? And so we have co-packaged optics, but still Marvell Industry Day 2026 is there, where we have NVIDIA now talking about making a transition to optical. We have Marvell still aiming to lend longevity to copper, right? As much as possible. Even though, they're teeing up co-packaged optics, no doubt. But this is where I think where you're going to see a lot more of the focus, especially next year. And I guess I'm getting it kind of into the predictions, but this is what we saw sort of trending this year and probably will ramp into next year. And then the scale out, right? For these mega clusters, and then the scale across, which is still kind of a, let's see.
Let's see.
With the Spectrum XGS. Yeah.
I don't know who's driving that.
But I wish Jim was on, because then we could get his take on the NVLink fusion for Trainium4, because the fact that AWS is looking at NVLink fusion is interesting. And I actually asked that question during the CEO Q&A, and Matt's response was, well, we're going to see which is better between UA Link and NVLink. Obviously they have some questions themselves about how are we going to approach the next generation of interconnect for our systems.
Well, they better hurry up and decide, because if they're going to do NVLink a year from now and they don't know what their interconnect is, that is not a credible statement.
Ooh.
You have to know 18 months in advance before you start laying out gates and take out, right? The controllers are on the chip. It's not something you attach to over PCIe.
Well, maybe there's stuff that his team, the AI team, knows that he doesn't know. It's not always the case that CEO know everything,
or he doesn't want to Osborne his current technology. Right? So if he's going to go that route, how much do you want to spend on his current technology?
Now,
good point. I would argue that these are not things that get Osborne. They're things that get extended. And you're not going to rip out billions tens of billions of dollars of hardware to put in a new interconnect.
Yeah.
Your next interconnect that will sit next to your current interconnect, that can be a different technology. So I think he just doesn't want to give NVIDIA too much credit. They know what they're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And one thing that I want to point out really quick that made headlines going into Marvell Industry Analyst Day 2025 was the announcement that Marvell would be acquiring Celestial AI. And part of that acquisition would be the acquiring of that company's photonic fabric. Right, for scale up networks. So, Marvell's always been good at scale out, scale in, and then now scale across, right, for the networking products. And now we're looking at optical for scale up. So.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of startups that were probably vying for that acquisition, and Celestial. Obviously I've won it. I've always been interested in the technology. They've been presenting at AI Hardware Summit and places like that. It looks like very, very powerful technology, and this is really confirms their leadership position.
Yeah. And one of the things that they were touting was end-to-end sort of networking and interconnect, right? So you scale in with the packaging, the advanced packaging.
Very much what Baia has been touting as well, right?
Yeah. Also custom ASICs, right? Yeah, custom ASICs. So like if you wanted to approach anybody to build a custom infrastructure, literally, right, on top of your custom stack, Marvell has that portfolio. But my question is, how scalable is that in terms of scaling down, right? Because this value proposition works really well for the hyperscalers who can afford to invest and build out these custom infrastructures. But I mean, how does that then scale down so that you can create more? You can address markets that aren't that massive. You know what I'm saying? Because then, up here with this hyperscalers, there's concentration risk that everyone, I think, is a little bit concerned about. But yeah. So that was great stuff. It's always a great event there. So, hey, let's get into your predictions. Let's talk about predictions for 2026. Right. Now, incredibly, your Mac doesn't work.
My Mac just died. Literally this morning.
Gosh.
This morning the Mac died, so I can't even pull up my predictions. I'm on an iPad, which is working pretty damn well, by the way. But an iPad is not.
Yeah, no, it looks
great doing multiple windows and stuff.
Yeah.
You have to remind me what I predicted. You can argue.
I will. We're going to go row by row here, item by item. They're all really good, actually. So agentic AI moves from demos to staff digital teams.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's probably already starting to happen. So that wasn't a hard one to call. Everything's moving to not everything. Most productive work is being channeled into agents, and there's a lot of issues there. Are you legally liable for what your agents create? Because you're going to be combining different components together to create a solution to a specific problem. So where's responsibility lie for that integration? What's the regulatory environment going to look like, if there is one even? It doesn't seem like the current administration wants to regulate anything. So, well, they do, but we won't go there. But clearly, enterprises see agents as the best way for them to monetize the work they have been doing and will be doing in AI. And that's what's going to drive this.
Yeah, I know that you and Jim are pretty bullish about this. Based on what I'm seeing, I'm not as optimistic. I think there's going to be a learning that happens in 2026 in this regard. But hey, these are your predictions, and we could be right and wrong. But one thing that's going to be cool during the course of next year, we will be debating this fully, and it will be fun. So you want to tune in. make sure that you keep track of us all year. And every year. Number 2, inference dominates AI capex and reshapes hardware mix. Oh my God, I love this one.
That is again. I took the easy route on some of these. That's obvious, right? It's already happening.
No, I don't think. Don't think that
that's
you're
where, that's
obvious. The industry is still talking about chips instead of systems and infrastructure. So don't assume.
True, but they're also talking about services. And so inference as a service is how most enterprises will deploy it. That will tear down barriers and make it much easier for companies to monetize the mountains of data they're standing on. And that will turn into inference, which will drive profit. So I think another way to look at that is 2026 is the year that profit becomes king. Not technology, because the reason you're going to do inference is to make inference is a profit center. Training is a cost center.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a great way of characterizing it. Yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Profit center. Actually, it's more of a revenue center. Profit's a different thing. But anyways, we've had that discussion actually last year. So if you're interested, go and check out. We'll make the recommendation and notes. Domain specific and smaller models beat general AI LLMs in the enterprise.
Yeah, this really came from the time I spend with IBM and listening to what their clients are doing. IBM, as a service company now, of course, spends a lot of time helping clients understand what AI is and how it can be profitably implemented. And that's where I get that thought is that inference is, of course, the profit center, and will drive a lot of enterprise adoption.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. That's a really good one. Number 4, CSPs and hyperscaler ASICs start to bite into NVIDIA, especially Google. Ooh.
Yeah, sorry, NVIDIA.
Ooh.
But if NVIDIA goes from 97%, which is where I think they are today, to 80%, it's from a massively growing pile of money. Yeah. So they're going to be just fine. They will set the standard. They are the standard. They will continue to set the standard. However, I am very bullish on where Ironwood sits and what the next generation of Ironwood of TPUs will look like. I think Google has finally cracked the nut of producing an AI system with over 9,200 TPUs attached over fiber optic cables and switches, which are provided by Lumentum Technologies, a stock that has been just crazy this year. And I think Google is ready to say, okay, we're going to let this beast out of the walled garden, which is Google Compute Cloud, and make it available more broadly, at least through other cloud service providers, and maybe in some cases actually setting up TPUs, TPU clouds within other companies like Meta. Now it's interesting. The market didn't like that when they realized that, who's going to set these up? Who's going to bend the metal? That's low profit business. It's not Google, it's Broadcom. Yeah. And so that's why Broadcom predicted, decline in operating margins in the future. Yeah. It's because they're kind of getting into that system integration business.
Yeah.
Not just chip development. So, but the amount of money involved is staggering. And so I do believe that all the CSPs, in less than a year ago, I was fairly negative on the CSP actions. I still am on some of them, not impressed with what Amazon's accomplished. But I look at what Google's accomplished, I'm like, okay, either this is the exception or it's the exception that proves the rule.
Yeah.
And it's probably the latter. It's probably the exception that proves the rule, which implies that the other CSP developers and users will become the rule. And now we see NVIDIA acquiring Groq, and maybe that kind of puts the I, crosses that T and dots the I. There's no I in exceptions.
No.
But anyway.
It's getting funky.
It's an interesting concept, yeah.
It's going to be a weird year next year. That's all I can say. Okay, 5, data, especially synthetic data, becomes as important as model architecture and AI.
Yeah, so you've got today, we're running out of data. The internet's been pretty much depleted as a source of training data. So there's only two other ways you can go. You can go to proprietary data, which is what enterprises will do, or you can synthesize the data, which is a lot of what's happening right now in automatic driving. Right? They're synthesizing data to make the vehicles smarter and more and safer. So.
Yeah, I'm thinking for large language model, it's data quality more than synthetic data. Anyways, I'll just make that note, and because there's been a lot of focus on data quality. I mean, that's, I think, the primary reason why Meta brought Alexander Wang on from Scale AI, right? It's all about data, better data, not synthetic necessarily. Okay, 6, we will see the first AI world models appear.
Yeah, so
I guess it depends on what we mean by world models, but like you put quotes there.
World models, not language models. They're trained inherently on real world data.
Yeah.
Okay. It could be video, it could be audio, but they're trained on the physical world around us, not on the synthetic world, which is language.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of folks who are staking their future and a lot of VC money being applied to real world models. And they're not going to take over the world. I mean, we've invested roughly $1 trillion already in total on language models. That's not going to go away. But there's new problems that language models are not really good at solving, and that are ripe for new approaches, and that will affect the entire stack. And that's what these these startups are all about.
Yeah. Number 7, identify theft and AI deepfakes will scare the bejesus out of a lot of us. That's not what you put here. Put a bunch of special characters, but yeah.
Yeah, I will. I think the launching point for that is the midterm elections, and I think we will see some pretty scary stuff being generated to influence people's votes. That will scare the heck out of us. It's the old joke that isn't a joke, where your boss calls you and asks you to do something.
Yeah,
and it's not your boss.
Yeah,
it's an AI, and determining the legitimacy of that voice is difficult. And so now, what do? You're gonna follow the boss's directions? Are you going to be insubordinate? The implications here are pretty astounding. I presented to the IEEE conference on computing technology last month, and I talked about agentic AI being applied in the background as proactive AI, not reactive. Everything we do today with AI is reactive. You give it a prompt and it gives you an answer. But if you have AI that's just running in the background, absorbing data from all kinds of sensors that are becoming available, then you get into all kinds of questions about, well, what is the governance around those, right? Who is responsible? It's kind of like the German government's concerns about autonomous driving. Take that to the power of 10, and that's what you're going to have. And I think we'll start to see it around the midterm elections.
Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable to expect. And cybersecurity overall, I think, is going to be a hot field because the threats and the attacks are going to be tremendous. We are already hearing a lot about AI or Gen AI or agentic, augmented attacks out there. So 9, AI hardware roadmaps double down on memory and interconnect, not just flops. Yeah, we've been talking about this ad nauseum through the course of the year, but yeah, I agree with you. I think this is a good one.
Yeah, I mean, we're compute bound, but that's just because the compute can't get access to enough data. So it's really the network and the memory that are becoming the issue. And we're starting to see some interesting things. There's a startup that just kind of changed directions, and they're focused on logarithmic compute. Not so you don't do any more multiplies, you just do adds. Well, that's going to have a massive impact.
Wow.
Yeah. And so NVIDIA's also talked about logarithmic math. I don't think that's not something that's going to materialize next year. But the problem will steer us more towards these very large memory systems like CPX from NVIDIA. And my Forbes article about this goes into various technologies that will materialize in 2026 that enable huge amounts of memory. Salmonova is one of them. Salmonova has a tier where they have all 3 tiers. They use SRAM, they use DRAM, and they use fast storage. And I think HBM is in there. Yeah, HBM I think is in there anyway. The point is everything. You're going to throw the kitchen sink at this problem. Break the memory wall.
I think next year will be, and we're already kind of seeing it, is going to be the year of heterogeneous memory.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, because you look at what Marvell introduced last year with custom HBM, but this year they're focusing more on SRAM. So they introduced custom SRAM, and then we saw SOCAM really kind of make its debut at GTC. Was it GTC? Yeah, I think it was GTC 2025. So memory, like you said, memory, and a lot of this is driven by, in my observation, the pursuit of more efficient model.
For infrastructure.
Support of,
long context.
Model efficiency. Right. Yeah.
So you take a look at have you seen what D-Link has done? That's really interesting. They built an accelerator and they found they couldn't feed it. It was really fast. They couldn't feed it fast enough. Even with HBM, they couldn't feed it fast enough. So they developed. They're not a memory company. They're an AI company. Everybody should look up D-Link. It's interesting. They've got a 3D memory stack that is, they say, 4 times faster than HBM.
That's crazy.
HBM4. 4 times faster than, it's easy for me to remember, 4 times faster than 4. Okay. So it's a fascinating technology, and I think it's going to have a huge impact. In fact, one wonders who will acquire them because they're really smart scientists and engineers.
Awesome. And finally, number 10, AI productivity gains show up unevenly, widening the AI gap between firms. That's good.
Yes. Yeah. So people that are just simply trying to use ChatGPT to make money, that's not going to work. You're going to have to, the ones that are bold enough to apply agentic AI to automate that workflow, that you still have a human involved in the loop right now, because you're just asking questions, getting inundated with answers. And only AI can handle the answers that are coming back from AI. And so that tells me, okay, agentic AI, the companies that drive agentic AI into their workflows, they're going to be the ones that realize profit. The ones who stay in the reactive world of a chat GPT are going to struggle to generate profit from their investments.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think that's a very good final prediction. So, hey everyone, he's published this on Forbes. It will be on his Substack. Actually, it is on his Substack. I'm reading off of his Substack. So make sure to check it out and subscribe. And also make sure to contact him if you're interested in, inquiring further about his predictions. So my predictions really quickly that kind of overlap with yours. Inference will be tipping the balance of the AI supercomputing landscape and narratives. So I think we agree on that. Agentic AI will have its moment of reckoning. So we kind of maybe differ in our thinking here, but monetization will still be a challenge for AI generally, spurring the move toward advertising. So you're going to see a lot of that happening next year. Edge and enterprise will benefit from good and improved economics for a broader range of AI, not just Gen AI, the ML stuff, right? It'll just benefit. The economics will improve, and we'll start to see AI move closer to the sensor. So that's I think a good thing, especially for the guys that are doing edge AI stuff. Scale in to scale out thermals and power will be a top topic, and a key to quality versus capacity. I think right now, in the last 3 years, there's been predominantly a conversation around capacity, how much, how fast, not as much of a conversation on quality. And as you start to look at these data center scale discussions, you're finding out that quality is an uptime. The nines are, the 6 nines, the 6 sigmas, all the quality metrics, the performance, the execution metrics for a full life cycle are going to be really, really important. They're not so well known today. We don't talk about them, but they're talking about them at OCP, hot chips, etc. And I think it's going to come to the fore. We will see a diversity in application-specific systems for inference and training based on TPU and other proprietary silicon start to sprout. So, we talked about that. AI supercomputing scaling will hit economic walls as well as tech walls, I think, because I think the industry is compressing too much research level stuff into commercialization, and there's a cost to that. We will see circular investment cycles get more creative and expansive, raising antitrust concerns abroad.
A good list. I wouldn't argue with any of those.
Really?
Oh. Not really.
Is that what we want? Come on.
I think what we should probably do is have an argument, a debate about quantum, because neither of us mentioned quantum, and that's because we're really talking about predictions that matter. And right now, quantum is still research. It's absolutely still research. But I spent enough time with IBM that I've become a believer in my latest articles about IBM quantum, really being the leader. There's others that are doing quite well, like Quantinuum, and IonQ. They're doing really good stuff, but they're completely different technologies. So I'd love to have a debate with you about that and see where you think it's going to be, where it's going to be landing, and more importantly for quantum is when it's going to be landing. A friend of mine asked Gemini 3 what a quantum world in 2033 is going to look like for a 70-year-old man. You can guess the age of my friend. He wants to know what it's going to be like when he turns 70 in 2033. And the response was mind-boggling. I asked him this morning if I could just get his permission to post it on my Substack, because it's really thought-provoking. The question I have is, okay, all this is possible. How can it be afforded? I don't think it's an affordable vision of the future, but if it were to materialize, it's life-changing. It's life-changing. So anyway, we'll save that for next month. Okay. Yeah, definitely. We have to have Jim there. Otherwise he will be very upset with us. He's enjoying some well-deserved time off in Arizona. That guy works way too hard. Way too hard. So. I can't keep up with that youngster. Anyway. Hey, this was great, Karl. We meant to keep it short, but it went long, but I think that's okay. This is just really good. And all right. Questions were spot on. We'll be spot on, no doubt, right? We'll find out. Find out. Yeah. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everybody watching. Hope you have a great year. Yeah.
Yeah, and make sure to reach out to Karl Freund at Cambrian AI Research at www.cambrian-ai.com. He's also on Substack, as we mentioned before, and Forbes. And also reach out to our good friend Jim McGregor and Tirius Research, who are here in spirit at www.tiriusresearch.com. And please subscribe to our podcasts, which will be featured on the Next Curve YouTube channel. Check out the audio version on Buzzsprout, or find us on your favorite podcast platform. Also, subscribe to the Next Curve Research Portal at www.next-curve.com for the tech and industry insights that matter. And we wish you all the best in the new year, and see you in 2026, right?
It comes 2026, whether you're ready or not.